Hi everyone, this is Havobi Tarapor. I just want to put in a few words before we start watching this video because today we're going to cover a very interesting yet difficult topic, and it's that of freedom of choice in Zoroastrianism. This freedom is not to be misunderstood as a license to do whatever one pleases. That actually would be contrary to the fundamental law of Asha, which includes concepts like divine law and divine order, amongst other things. Freedom of choice refers to each individual's inner battle to choose between good and evil. However, that individual is not free from the concomitants or consequences of that choice. In so choosing, the person will learn to understand why one choice is better than the other, and ultimately, freely choosing to move towards good or God. In this way, freedom implies that our Mazda, or God by any name, is not forcibly making us do the right thing without us attaining realization and the inner desire to do so. So, to give an example, suppose you are a parent of two children, and one is obedient, kind, loving, the other is disobedient, a bit mean, and perhaps a bit hateful. When the second child acts inappropriately, you may punish that child to his or her room for a while. You may instruct the child to apologize and not to repeat the action. But here the child learns two things. Number one is that an apology is the key to getting out. And number two, bad behavior results in an unpleasant experience. The child may learn to control his or her emotions in the future because of this unpleasant experience. However, this may not change the child's inner struggle between good and bad. It might not change that child's character. So only when something else happens to this child to arouse in the child compassion for the suffering of others, a love for justice, a love for law and order, then the child begins to convert his or her own character into something that is better, more kind, more respecting of law and order. He or she becomes desirous to do the right thing for its own sake. That is to say, truth for the sake of truth, goodness for the sake of good, righteousness for the sake of righteousness. He or she makes these choices out of their own free will through their God given freedom of choice. So there's a caveat here, however, because we don't always know or understand what the right choice is. And examples of that are the modern issues that we face today and have been facing for many generations, such as abortion or right to life, life sentences or capital punishment, same sex marriages, conversion, the list goes on. So listen to the following interview, and hopefully it helps us learn and understand how to make what the right choice is and how to go about making it.
Okay, and let's go back here. How does a person choose who to serve, a Riman or a Hura Mazda? And where does that choosing take place? And what is choice in the Zoroastrian culture?
Right. So, it's not as simple as being a conscious choice because, as we spoke before, the mind is interrupted or corrupted with the sense of self. So we cannot completely rely on our mind to make a conscious choice. Nor is it as simple as following one's conscience, because even that is constantly intercepted by the thoughts that are floating around in our aura. So and to give an example for somebody who may not understand that, I would say that somebody might choose to follow Aura Mazda consciously, but not know that they're being deceived all the while by Ahriman or the dark forces. And contrary to that, one might choose to follow Ahriman and find that in the end it was Aura Mazda who was leading him through all these dark paths, so in order for him to learn something or gain something. So we cannot rely completely on our mind, because that is the whole organ that we're trying to alchemize here on this earth. So choice in Zoroastrianism is not choice is not something that is a one-time event. It is actually an endless process that began from the beginning of time, and it will end at the end of time when you finally merge back into Aura Mazda. So how does one make that choice now? Because now our mind is confused, our conscience gets, the messages get distracted. So again, I'm going to say that here it is necessary for a human being to follow their religion, because what a religion does is at three levels. According to Zoroastrianism, I can speak of ours only at this moment. So we practice mantra, mitra, and yasna. So mantra are the divine invocations or prayers. We call them prayers, but they're not just talking to God. They have a vibration. When you say a prayer, it creates a vibration in nature, in yourself, and it actually promulgates Aura's will even further. So that is one thing that we use. While we're saying those prayers or mantra, we also use mitra, which is our thoughts, and we try to focus our thoughts on those prayers and what we should be thinking, and try to attain some kind of oneness with nature, natural elements, God, whatever it is that we are praying at that moment. And yasna means the actual practice. You can call it rituals. So it's of two grades. One is of rituals, that when you're praying you have certain rituals that you do. But the other aspect of yasna is that your entire life should be a prayer to God. So everything you say and do in life should be a service to God and a service to humanity and all of nature. So in that sense, the practice of these three things in Zoroastrianism allows the ego to be again subdued, creates a faith, greater faith in a person, creates an awareness of our purpose, because without religion we don't really know our purpose, and creates the ability to attune to benevolent forces, gives us strength and courage, because once we start attuning to these forces and we start getting better communication, it gives us great amount of strength to stay on that path that is actually so difficult to do. And when you do that, when you show and you exercise that courage to stay on that path, then innate wisdom somehow comes to you. It's just a natural process. That is what Zoroastrianism teaches us. And with that innate wisdom, you suddenly realize that, you want so much to be with that eternal source of energy. And you lose yourself and you start realizing that whatever your wants and needs are not important. And you will rush out to help somebody else. You will want to help somebody else to realize the truth. And those kind of things will happen as you practice the religion. And that will help you make a choice, because until that point, you don't know what is good or what is bad. If I ask anybody walking on the street today, do they know what is good and what is bad? They will say, of course, we know what is good and bad. But do you? If that were the case, there would not be so many controversies in this world. There's issues of abortion. Is it right or is it wrong? There's issues of capital punishment. Is it right or is it wrong? All these things that we don't know what is right and wrong. So until we go through the path of religion and we get this divine intervention, or the communication increases, then we begin to understand that there's good is the only thing that's good is a movement of the soul towards Aura Mazda, towards the path of reuniting with God, whereas bad is something that takes us away from that path. So if a person says, I'm spiritual, but I don't believe in God, then something is amiss there, because it's taking that person away from the path of uniting with the ultimate. Whereas person might be still quite bad themselves, not alchemize themselves, but they still understand that they're moving. It is difficult, but they're moving towards Aura Mazda. And that is becoming a good choice. Sorry for the long answer.
No, that's great. No.